Iran just hit a Gulf oil refinery. And if your brain immediately went to, okay, that's it, the energy war has begun, you're not wrong to feel the weight of it. But you can be wrong about what it means next. Because the internet is going to do what it always does, turn one strike into a movie ending. So let's do this the useful way. I'm going to explain what's actually been reported, what's still unclear, why a refinery hit matters more than 1,000 political speeches, and what you should watch next to know whether this is a short, brutal shock or the start of a sustained energy war. And I'll give you the mini payoff right up front. Energy wars rarely begin when oil runs out. They begin when oil becomes hard to move, hard to insure, and hard to price. That's when the world panics, even if there's still plenty of oil in the ground. Now, what's been reported? Credible reporting says Iran carried out strikes near or at Bahrain's major refinery, operated by Bapco, injuring civilians nearby, and that the refinery declared force majeure after the overnight attack. The Wall Street Journal. And if you don't speak shipping and energy, force majeure is a very loud phrase. It basically means we may not be able to meet contractual supply obligations because something outside our control just disrupted operations. That's not a vibe. That's not a hot take. That's the physical world colliding with the market. Now, here's where the internet tries to manipulate you. It will sell you one of two extreme stories. Story 1, this is the start of total collapse. There is no oil. The West is finished. Story 2, this is nothing. Minor damage. Markets will forget by Friday. Both are emotionally satisfying. Both can be wrong. The adult answer is, a refinery hit is a Holly signal. And the signal isn't only about barrels. It's about how's risk. Because the oil market is not a single pipeline. It's a nervous system. And when you strike a nerve, the whole body reacts. Now let's talk about why a refinery hit is such a big deal, even if production elsewhere is still running. A refinery is where crude becomes usable fuel. Diesel, gasoline, jet fuel, shipping fuel. So even if crude oil exists, if refining and distribution get disrupted, you can get shortages of products fast. And product shortages are what people feel first, not crude inventories. They feel it at the pump, in transport costs, in food prices, in the cost of doing literally anything. That's why the phrase energy war isn't just dramatic language. Targeting energy infrastructure is one of the fastest ways to transmit pain across borders. Now let's zoom out, because Bahrain isn't the only piece of this. Reporting in the last week has described multiple energy facilities around the region being threatened, disrupted, or shut as risks rise, from terminals to pipelines to refineries, and the Strait of Hormuz as the main global choke point where fear turns into pricing. Appnews.com. That's the core, not one refinery, the system. Because once you hit energy facilities and you threaten the transit lane at the same time, you create a perfect storm. Facilities get disrupted. Shipping slows or stops. Insurance pulls back. Then prices move before anyone can fix anything. And yes, oil prices have reacted sharply in recent days, with reporting describing major spikes as markets try to price the possibility of wider disruption. AP News. Now, let's talk about the part most people ignore because it's not cinematic enough. Insurance. In modern energy war scenarios, the most powerful weapon isn't always the missile. It's uninsurability. Because if tankers can't get war risk cover, or if premiums spike so hard owners won't sail, your oil doesn't need to be destroyed to become unavailable. It just needs to become too risky to deliver. And reporting has described tanker traffic through Hormuz collapsing in response to insurers pulling war risk cover. The Wall Street Journal. That's how an energy war works in real life, not necessarily with a Hollywood blockade, with a fear tax. Now, I'm going to give you a framework you can use for every headline you're about to see. 3 buckets. Confirmed. Unclear. Sold. Confirmed. Bahrain's Bapco refinery was hit or impacted by Iranian drone strikes, civilians were injured, and the refinery declared force majeure. The Wall Street Journal. Unclear. The full extent of operational damage, how long disruption lasts, and whether follow-on strikes will sustain pressure. Sold. The world has no oil left. This is permanent. It's over in 14 days. any absolute countdown type language. Now, here's the part that makes this different from random conflict news. Energy infrastructure is one of the few targets that has a direct, immediate link to global daily life. If you disrupt energy, you disrupt shipping costs, insurance, supply chains, inflation, central bank decisions, consumer confidence, business margins, political stability. And you don't need to destroy everything. You just need to create enough uncertainty that markets reprice risk violently. That's exactly what we're watching. Now the phrase, "the energy war has begun," becomes true when three conditions are met. 1. Energy infrastructure becomes a recurring target, not a one-off incident. 2. Shipping lanes become persistently risky, not just briefly scary. 3. Governments and companies start changing behavior, rerouting, invoking emergency measures, releasing reserves, declaring force majeure, restricting movement. We already have examples of behavior changing: force majeure, disruptions, insurance pullback, traffic collapsing. The Wall Street Journal. That is why this matters. Now let's address the most common misunderstanding. People hear refinery hit and assume no oil. That's not how the shock works. The shock is usually regional first. You get product shortages in specific markets. You get price spikes because prompt delivery becomes scarce. You get bidding wars for barrels that can arrive quickly. Then the rest of the world adjusts, but adjustment takes time, and the gap is where the pain lives. And here's the brutal irony. Even if flows resume quickly, the risk premium high can stick around. Because once a tanker crew watches a facility get hit, they don't forget. Once an insurer cancels cover, they don't instantly return to normal pricing. Once markets learn the lane can be threatened, that risk becomes part of the price. That's why calling it a trap isn't crazy. The question is whether it becomes chronic. Now, what should you watch next if you want to know whether this truly becomes a sustained energy war? 3 signals. Signal 1. Repeat attacks on energy functions, not just random targets. If the strikes keep hitting refineries, terminals, pipelines, storage, and the logistics that move fuel, then this is a deliberate pressure campaign. If it's isolated, it may remain a shock, not a sustained war on energy. Signal 2. Shipping behavior. Don't stare at a chart first. Watch the water. Are tankers transiting again? Are they holding? Are routes being avoided? Because shipping behavior is harder to fake than a headline. And reporting has already described major disruption, with tanker traffic dropping sharply when war risk cover pulls back. The Wall Street Journal. Signal 3. Policy intervention. When governments start coordinating reserve releases, escorts, guarantees, or emergency measures, that's the system admitting private markets can't price the risk cleanly. That doesn't mean apocalypse. It means the fear tax became expensive enough to justify public intervention. Now let's talk about why this story is going to get more confusing before it gets clearer. Because both sides in a conflict benefit from energy narratives. One side benefits from saying, "We can squeeze you." The other side benefits from saying, "We are stable, nothing happened." And the public gets caught in the middle, trying to decide what's real. So don't let your brain get hijacked by the loudest version. Track convergence. Real events converge over time. Multiple outlets report the same core facts, details stabilize, official statements become consistent. Fake narratives mutate, new proof clips appear, old footage gets recycled, the number of tankers hit changes every hour. Now let's bring this to the real question people are secretly asking. Does this mean oil is going to the moon? Maybe, but that's not the smart way to frame it. The smarter frame is this a short disruption with fast adaptation, or a prolonged risk regime where shipping and insurance stay broken? Because if it's short, prices can spike and then stabilize. If it's prolonged, you don't just get a spike, you get persistence. And persistence is what breaks budgets, elections, and confidence. Now, I'm going to give you 3 realistic paths from here. Path 1. Stabilization. The attacks stop or diminish, shipping resumes with higher premiums, refineries restore operations, and the market calms. Still expensive, still volatile, but functioning. Path 2. Grinding disruption. This is the sneaky one. Not total shutdown, not dramatic closure, just enough repeated threat and insurance stress that flows stay slower, more expensive, and unpredictable for weeks. This is where inflation pressure stays high and markets get choppy, because nobody knows what's next. Path 3. Escalation. More energy sites get targeted, more tankers get hit, war risk cover stays pulled, transit becomes intermittent or severely reduced. In that world, you don't need total closure to get a crisis. You just need enough disruption long enough that buffers can't bridge the gap. And reporting has already described multiple facilities under threat and broader infrastructure risk across the region, which is why markets are reacting so hard. AP News. Now I want to end with the one line I want you to remember, because it will keep you sane while the internet panics. The world doesn't run out of oil first. It runs out of confidence. In delivery first. That's what you're watching. A war where the weapon is not only destruction, it's uncertainty. Now tell me in the comments what you think is more likely. Do we get a short, violent spike and then stabilization? Or does this become a long, fear tax era where insurance, shipping, and energy risks stay elevated for months? And if you share anything about this story, share the framework, not the panic, confirmed, unclear, sold.